Look up at the sky tonight, and you'll see something you've seen your entire life. Something you never questioned. Something every human before you simply accepted. The moon. But in 1969, NASA did something strange. They crashed part of the Apollo spacecraft directly into the moon's surface, on purpose. And they had a seismometer waiting to record what happened. What they recorded should not have been possible. The moon didn't just shake. It rang, like a bell. For over 55 minutes, the vibrations kept moving through the moon's interior, long after any solid rock should have absorbed the impact and gone silent. A solid object doesn't ring for almost an hour. A hollow one does. So here's the question NASA's own scientists couldn't fully answer. If the moon is just a dead rock, exactly like we were taught in school, why does it behave like a bell? By the end of this video, I'm going to show you the declassified data, the buried Soviet research paper, and the 2023 discovery that has quietly reopened one of the strangest questions in modern science. Was the moon ever natural at all, or did humanity just switch something back on? Stay until the end, because the last 5 minutes will change the way you look at the night sky forever. Let's go back to November 20th, 1969. Apollo 12 had just completed its mission. Before heading home, the astronauts released the lunar module's ascent stage and deliberately crashed it into the moon's surface, a controlled experiment designed to study the moon's internal structure. Back in Houston, scientists sat glued to their instruments, watching the needle on the seismometer. The moment of impact came, and then something no one expected happened. Under normal conditions, an impact on a solid celestial body produces a short, sharp spike that fades within seconds. That's how Earth behaves. That's how every rocky planet is supposed to behave. The moon's vibrations lasted 55 minutes. Lead scientist Maurice Ewing, the man overseeing the experiment, went on record saying the moon behaved like it was ringing like a bell. And it wasn't a one-time fluke. When Apollo 13's discarded upper stage struck the moon in 1970, the resulting vibrations lasted over 3 hours and were detected more than 135 kilometers from the impact site. Think about that for a second. Throw a rock into solid ground, and the energy dies almost instantly. Throw that same rock into an empty steel drum, and the sound rings on and on. The moon did the second one. NASA's official explanation pointed to unusual lunar geology. Dry rock, low density, no water to dampen the vibrations. But the more this data was studied over the following decades, the more questions it raised instead of answering. And in the 1970s, on the other side of the Iron Curtain, 2 Soviet scientists were about to publish something that would make the mystery even stranger. In 1970, 2 Soviet researchers, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Sherbakov, published a paper in the Soviet Academy of Sciences journal with a title that still raises eyebrows today. Is the moon the creation of alien intelligence? This wasn't a fringe blog. This was a peer-reviewed publication from one of the most respected scientific institutions of the Cold War era. Their theory was bold. The moon wasn't a captured asteroid or a chunk of debris from a cosmic collision. It was, they argued, a hollow, artificially constructed object, placed deliberately into orbit around Earth. They built their case on a handful of facts that mainstream science still hasn't fully explained. Fact 1. The moon's size and distance are almost impossibly precise. The moon is exactly the right size and exactly the right distance from Earth to perfectly cover the sun during a solar eclipse. The sun is roughly 400 times larger than the moon and roughly 400 times farther away. That ratio is not repeated anywhere else in our solar system. Every other moon and planet pairing we know of gets this wrong. Fact 2. The moon's density is suspiciously low. Earth's average density is about 5.5 grams per cubic centimeter. The moon's is only 3.34. If the moon were a solid rocky body formed the same way Earth was, the numbers should be much closer. This gap has led some scientists to wonder whether the moon's interior contains large hollow spaces, or materials far lighter than expected. Fact 3. The crust is wildly uneven. The side facing Earth has a relatively thin crust. The far side, the one we can never see from the ground, only from spacecraft, has a crust that's dramatically thicker. And that brings up something you may never have thought about before. The moon always shows us exactly one face. We have never, in the entire history of humanity, seen the far side of the moon with our own eyes from Earth. Is that just gravitational locking, the way we're taught? Or is it possible, just possible, that this coincidence is doing exactly what was designed to do, keeping something permanently hidden from view? Now here's something even NASA's own data struggles to fully explain. The moon's surface is covered in millions of craters from asteroid and meteorite impacts over billions of years. But many of the largest craters have depths that don't add up. Basic physics says the harder something hits, the deeper the crater should be. But some of the moon's biggest craters, over 100 kilometers wide, are only 3 to 4 kilometers deep. That's like dropping a bowling ball from a great height onto sand and having it barely dent the surface, as if something solid was blocking it from going any deeper. Scientists actually have a name for this, the shallow crater anomaly. And here's where it gets interesting. NASA's own published research acknowledges that beneath the moon's crust lies a mysterious, dense layer, one that appears to prevent impacts from penetrating deeper than expected. Officially, this is attributed to something called mascons, mass concentrations, first discovered in 1968 during the lunar orbiter missions. But even today, scientists don't have a fully confirmed explanation for what these mascons actually are. The mainstream theory is that they're leftover dense material from ancient asteroid impacts. But a smaller group of researchers, working outside the mainstream consensus, ask a more unsettling question. What if it's not leftover debris at all? What if it's structure? Something built, not something that simply happened. Now, let me tell you something most people have never heard. During the Apollo 11 broadcast, the moment Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were on the moon's surface, there was a brief gap in transmission, just a few seconds. NASA later called it a technical glitch. Former NASA employees, including retired communications staffer Otto Binder, later claimed in interviews that during that gap, the astronauts may have observed something unexpected. Let me be completely transparent with you. These claims have never been officially verified, and NASA has consistently denied them. But what makes these stories worth examining isn't any single account. It's the pattern. Multiple astronauts, across multiple missions, decades apart, with no obvious connection to each other, have described things that felt strangely out of place. Buzz Aldrin himself has spoken publicly, multiple times, about unidentified phenomena he witnessed during his missions. Though he's always been careful to clarify, he never claimed it was extraterrestrial, only unexplained. Edgar Mitchell, the Apollo 14 astronaut, said before his death that he believed humanity is not alone in the universe and that governments hold information the public has never been given access to. This wasn't a random conspiracy theorist speaking. This was a man who had physically walked on the moon. So here's the question we're sitting with. If the moon really is just an inert rock, why do so many experienced astronauts, scientists, and engineers keep circling back to things they can't fully explain? Now here's the part one promise you at the start. In 2023, China's Chang'e 5 mission brought lunar soil samples back to Earth. When scientists analyzed them in a lab, they found something they weren't expecting. The samples contained minerals that, based on our current understanding of geology, could only form under extreme heat and pressure conditions. Conditions that don't cleanly match the natural processes we associate with the moon's formation. Around the same time, NASA's own SOFIA telescope detected water molecules on the moon's sunlit surface back in 2020. Something previously considered nearly impossible, since the moon has no meaningful atmosphere to protect water from evaporating into space. On their own, these discoveries don't prove anything extraordinary, but when you place them next to everything else, the bell-like ringing, the strange density, the shallow craters, the mysterious dense layer beneath the crust, a pattern starts to form. And then in 2024, something even stranger surfaced. NASA researchers and independent scientists noticed something odd about the moon's magnetic field. Based on its size, the moon shouldn't have any significant active magnetism. Yet certain regions on its surface show magnetic readings strong enough that some researchers have suggested they point to something resembling an artificial core. A handful of independent scientists, working well outside mainstream consensus, have proposed a striking idea. What if something inside the moon has been dormant for millions of years, and our modern satellites, radio signals, and technology have inadvertently begun waking it back up? In other words, what if we didn't just discover the moon? What if we accidentally turn it back on? Now I want to be completely honest with you. Is the moon really a spacecraft? Was it built by someone? Did humanity switch it on without realizing it? The truth is, we don't know. Everything I've told you in this video, the ringing moon, the Soviet scientist's paper, the mascons, the shallow craters, the astronauts' unexplained accounts, the 2023 and 2024 discoveries, every single one of these is a real documented fact. I didn't invent any of it. But the interpretation that the moon is artificial, that it's been activated, that part is a theory, a possibility, one that mainstream science does not currently accept as fact. Most scientists believe every one of these anomalies can eventually be explained through natural geological and physical processes. We simply don't have a complete picture yet. And that's the beautiful part of science. As long as a question remains unanswered, curiosity stays alive. The moon, our closest neighbor in the universe, the object that has hung over every single night of human history, is still holding on to secrets we haven't fully unlocked. Maybe it's exactly what we were taught, a fragment from a violent collision, billions of years old, nothing more. Or maybe it's something else entirely. And until we go back, deeper this time, further than we've ever gone, that question isn't going away. If this video made you look at the night sky differently, and if you want to go even deeper into this, like why we've never seen the far side of the moon with our own eyes, or the missing NASA footage that's never been officially explained, drop a comment below and tell me. Hit like if you think the moon is still hiding its biggest secret. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because in the next video, we're going somewhere no camera has ever fully captured. The moon's hidden far side. Because maybe the thing we've never been able to see is the biggest truth of all. See you in the next one. Until then, don't forget to look up. It might be looking back.